I don't know. Introduce yourself.
In a former life, Lieutenant Brian Muka, EOD Platoon Commander, now accomplished author, founder of Fear Sherpa.
The book called...
Oh, yes. Your Secret Superpower, Tame Fear to Thrive. Born of my greatest failure, and wrote the guidebook on how to come back from life's major avalanches.
Because you were in an avalanche.
I was, yeah. My whole life changed with this line of dialogue. Brian, you're not the man to take your team to Afghanistan. And we're getting ready to support the Rangers there. And 8 years worth of work and journals went into creating this guidebook, how to convert major avalanches, catastrophic setbacks into your life's work, how to thrive.
Nice. Yeah. For people watching, I haven't planned any of this. So I don't even know if this is going to be like a podcast style. Brian's a good friend of mine. We're just going to chat was the idea. So we'll see what happens with this. But good to have a person with some sweet accolades. Dude, that's awesome. So I know, you and I have connected a lot over the past few months on a whole bunch of stuff. And I think the most interesting thing we did was the getting into the James River.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 weeks ago when it was, I don't know how cold it was, but it was cold. It was in November.
45-degree air temperature, water temperature was 53.
Uh-huh.
And man, you're a boss in that. I got to share with you the iPad videos I have of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
My phone.
They turned out great.
Very excited.
What happened to your phone?
The phone got knocked by this very sweet lab. One of your buddies was taking some photos and got into the river, but damn, finally Apple figured it out. So my phone didn't get all jacked up. It was actually like totally fine. It still worked, and then I put in some rice to really get the water out because it wouldn't charge.
Yeah.
But it was dope, man.
You had a fateful day too. Somebody needed some alcohol out of your car pretty bad.
Oh yeah, that and my window got smashed in like a public park right by the James. Like what park was that?
Commute Run Park, Manchester.
Yeah, it was freaking daylight out. I think I had a bottle of whiskey. It'd been in there for a while because it's been in there from a tailgate. But I was like, cool, I guess, if this is the worst thing that happens to me, man, it's like, I don't know. I think you and I talked about it shortly after. It's like a metaphor, man. Like, not that we expected my window to get bashed in, but dude, shit happens. And like, I think me a few years ago would have just been like, and me talking to you would have been like, oh yeah, whatever. But then inside I would have been like, this fucking sucks. Like, why me? Why does these things happen?
Yeah, the whole
like,
victim story, right?
Yeah. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I can't change that. And so what was cool was like, after having this great experience, we did some breath work, got into a very, very frigid river.
Moving water. Right?
You ever turn the water down from hot to cold? Like, it's not comfortable. And this is like getting into a bath like that. But having that and then just seeing that, I'm like, oh, well, all right. I guess, I'll just call Safe Flight tomorrow. Or actually, I went to a local place.
Was that Bill Thurston?
No, Smiley's out on Forest Hill. They were very sweet. I had to get it done real quick because we were my younger brother and sister were going out on Nag's Head.
Oh, yeah, that was right for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. So got that handled.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Well,
and the interesting thing too, the thing I remember most about your cold exposure, you smiled like the whole time.
Oh, well, I remember like deliberately doing it because you're like, the exercise is done when you smile. I was like, all right, let me go. But I wasn't like too conscious. I just maybe I'm easy to say yes to, or put a challenge in front. I'm like, sure.
It was really cool. So Anna was our photographer, videographer for that. She's like, man, what you said about finding joy in ice and then watching these men find excitement and triumph, and they actually smiled. Like, you told me about it, I didn't believe it, and then I saw it. And it was such an exciting moment for her to witness. Like, us, really connecting like that.
Because then you're like, yeah, I'm not like full of shit. Like, this is legitimate.
Some people need to stick their fingers inside the scar to believe,
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
That's a Christ reference. You know, the
Oh,
doubting Thomas.
damn.
Let me put my hands in your wounds to really believe.
Yeah. Wow. I feel bad that I didn't catch that.
It's all right, man.
That is, I mean, that's a very powerful metaphor. So you released your book at the skydiving place.
I did.
And I was bummed I couldn't make it, but had a great time. I saw the photos. I don't know, what was that experience like? Like, what did y'all do there? Just kind of hang out and say, hey, who wants to go skydiving now?
Well, it was billed as a workshop, and you know, we dug deep into, you know, 3 of my pieces of technology around language, fear setting, and breath work as a try. And then the people feeling bold enough, they knew that there was a skydive option.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't force anybody to do that. We had 5 people jump out of airplanes. One of the ladies, Nikki, that was her goal, one of her bucket list things since she was 15. And she signed up for the advanced freefall course that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. In my life, that was one of the top 3 days. It was the day that I put on my EOD crab, special operations, and it used to be my wedding. I'll tell you that in a minute. I was just at the Wyndham where my reception was for Synapse this past week. And it was sort of like your broken glass story. I'll come back to that. And then the skydiving.
I'll move this closer to you because my voice is louder than yours. So.
Booming.
Yeah, and my inside voice is most people's outside voice. So
right on.
Well, before we get into that, because I mean we mentioned breath work with the river. Give some context around this breath work.
I mean, it's the key to it all. And so in life's hurricanes, can't really control that. What I do professionally is I help people get into the eye of the storm, get into this moment. And breath work is the gateway drug into all of that. It's a gateway into making endocannabinoids, endo-DMT, finding calm when it matters the most. And Wim Hof was the modality that I've used to develop that. It's not the only method. You know, XPT is a great protocol. The Oxygen Advantage, another great protocol. But yeah, the whole idea in the calm breathing is to breathe in through the nose. And I'll demonstrate this. So through the nose. And then out.
Oh, damn, I fucked it up. Out the nose.
And then let go. And smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do one more. Hold it. Complete reset.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
Yeah. It was nuts. I mean, we did it, and then I get into the water, and I'm like, I feel like the heat of my body is overpowering this water. And then it's like, if I let go of some concentration, stop breathing right, like, oh shit, I'm getting cold, start breathing again, start focusing on, and it's like, I mean, I have no experience with that ever. So y'all did that. Y'all had some folks jump out of the planes, and because you've been like certified, so you weren't going tandem.
No, right? I wasn't. I got to be in every load that jumped out, and so it was really cool.
Did you jump every time?
I did, yeah.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. So thank you, taxpayers. I went to military free fall school. Had a blast. I got to leave deployment early to do that, and enjoyed Halloween in San Diego. That was a high point in my Navy career. And yeah, so the month before, I got recertified for my jump license. And man, the first skydive, I'd never done this before. A lot of it is like belly to earth relative flying.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to figure out how to head down fly. So I was here.
The delta position.
Not quite. Straight to the earth. And as I inverted, straight to the earth and did like this little bow roll to the earth, and pulled out of that. It was so incredibly exhilarating. I've never done. I was scared. I've always been scared to do that. That's more of an advanced skydiving thing.
Yeah. Well, I just know that when that dude jumped from like the stratosphere, like the highest ever. I think there was some documentary talking about it, and it's like to hit the fastest speed, you got to be like head down, and that whole thing looked just. He was in space.
He jumped from outer space.
He jumped from
outer space. Are you talking about Felix Baumgartner?
Yeah. Like the whole Red Bull thing.
Yeah, in a balloon.
Yeah, like
150,000 feet above the earth.
Have you seen?
You could see the edge of space. I mean, you could see the ozone layer from where he jumped.
Oh yeah. No, you can see the.
If any of your listeners, this is an important question. What shape do you think the Earth is? And if you think it's flat, watch the Felix Baumgartner video?
Well, I'm not going to touch that. My favorite thing, because this is a professional, my favorite thing, one of them, is to pretend like I'm a flat earther. You know, if the earth was round, why are your shoes, you know, the bottoms are flat, bro?
Right?
You ever think about that?
How come all puddles that you've ever seen are completely flat?
Yeah, it's real. But yeah, it's like, take a look at the space.
That's my favorite question now when I meet somebody. I'm like, okay, this is going well. I think we could be friends.
Yeah.
What shape do you think the earth is? And I've had two people go. The first one was this pretty Asian lady. She winks at me. She goes, it's flat. I was like, oh, you minx, right?
Yeah.
And then the second person who said it was flat was like, it's both round and flat. She started talking about the astral plane and the Akashic record. I'm like, I bit off more than I could chew.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to meet an actual flat earther, but this came from PBS Space Time, one of my favorite YouTube channels, all about space and quantum stuff. So there is science to this. I can't explain it, but objects around like Earth, the sun, the moon, but galaxies and like, I don't know, they're flat. Like broad space is flat.
Wow.
I don't know how that works, why that works, something like that. But moving on.
So consultants, coaches, and cars talking about the cosmos.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing right now.
The extension. This started with Brian and I and our buddy Keith driving out to Norfolk. We're just having an awesome conversation, and we're like, yeah, it's like coaches, consultants, and cars, drinking coffee.
No cocaine.
None of that.
No cocaine.
With Keith, we kept an alliteration going.
Yeah,
so this one is about the cosmos, and I can't think under pressure.
Take a breath.
To add more C's.
Yeah.
And chilling.
Ooh.
It's a soft C. I don't know if it preserves the sound. English teachers.
We'll count it.
You judge English teachers.
And this reminds me of the first conversation we had at Level. We nerded out on quantum mechanics and space and Neil deGrasse Tyson for like an hour and a half.
Yeah. What's cool is I connected with a woman who lives in Chicago, and her whole bio is super cool. It's awkward marketing, which resonates fantastically with me. And I just changed my LinkedIn profile to like the headline to say like awkwardly charming digital marketer, because I realized like my LinkedIn profile blows. I kind of don't like LinkedIn, to be quite honest with you, but I'm on it. It's a good way to connect with people. But I reached out to her. I was like, hey, I know this has been your thing, but I want to let you know, like, I'm kind of using the same word. And she was like the sweetest person on the planet. And we were just talking about like being ourselves and like speaking truthfully, which is, I think why you and I resonate so much. Like anytime I'm around someone who I'm like, I think this person is giving me permission to be myself, someone I gravitate to. But now like recently with some major breakthroughs and realizations I've had, it's like, I need to be that way all the time. And so her and I were chatting on LinkedIn, like on that. And it was like, I was like, yeah, like a lot of times, like, you know, I just want to like talk about like space and black holes and stuff. And she's like, oh my God, me too. Like I love that stuff. So maybe it's like, you know, that's a certain characteristic people had, or just people I like to, if people like me and I like them, we probably both like space, I think is what I'm getting at.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Like what's really out there? Like those are some hard questions.
Yeah.
Are we the only intelligent life out here? Right?
Yeah.
What's our place in the entire universe?
Yeah.
On this blue marble, you know, that when you get past Saturn, like it looks like a speck.
It's tiny. Well, I think, you know, if taking that metaphor, even boiling it down to concept of business, people like, I want to change the world. Well, it's like the world is huge. The universe is huge, but like just the space around you is also incredibly massive. And to exert a force over, if you're looking at your home, we're in my apartment, that's a whole area that I got to have control over. I got to have control over my brain and of course my business. So how do I change myself to change my business? And if I'm changing myself for the positive, hopefully that has a positive influence on other people. And likewise, a positive influence on my business and the people that I serve, kind of bring it all, I guess, back in. But it's like everything is, it seems big if you're like contemplating it, but you actually, as small as we are, like have a tremendous impact on what's around us.
This gets into some of my favorite quotes. Gandhi said, if you want to change the world, change yourself.
Yeah.
And we're powerful beings. You know,
Is that the same? Do people kind of play around with that? Be the change you want to see in the world?
they do.
Just like maybe a different translation, I guess.
Yeah.
Unless you said it originally in English, which is quite possible.
And so as we look at ourselves, right, there's a whole inner world here, right? And we can get into quantum mechanics around thought and love and how it affects the shape of water and its structure. And we're participating in creation all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And so where my edge is right now is looking on the inside. And so in my relationship, my business or my relationship aren't the way I want them to be. They're a mirror of what's happening inside.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I take ownership for that and all these dramas and all this trauma and take responsibility for all of it, I realize there's a brilliance in it. So, if you have addictions, you're struggling with things, they're all there. And congratulations, it was brilliant. And it allows you to survive at this point.
Yeah.
It allows us to take responsibility for what happens next. So if we own the past, we own the future.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the next tier after the self is Mother Teresa's quote. If you want to change the world, love your family.
I'm not see it ending like that, but I'm not familiar with that quote. I like it. I love my family.
And so what's family? I mean, it's our blood, it's our relatives, it's our tribe. Paul, consider you part of my family in terms of influencers and change agents and those things. And just us showing up. This might blow your mind or your audience's mind. How do we be more, do less? And so, to the extreme of that, Buddha sat under the tree and students came to him.
Uh-huh.
So how we show up in our families, for ourselves, in our environment, in our community, our world affects change without us even doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're, if someone, people who are like, you're doing too much, and there's a lot of dialogue on like the hustle, the struggle, whatever, the grind. And then there's people who are like, no, but if you're grinding too much, then things won't work for you. And there's truth to all that, because in some ways, if you're like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, like shit ain't gonna work. Like you could work your butt off, but what's the outcome you're even getting for that? And it's fun. I mean, I'm not shocked that we got like into some weird shit like pretty quickly, but like most all business owners that I chat with have a lot of these elements, if not all of them. I mean, you're the first person that I've like recorded a conversation with, but like when it's one-on-one, when like, behind closed doors, like we all believe in the same type of stuff. You can call it what you want to, but because really what it comes down to, I mean, it's like being in business is not like that much fun. I mean, it can be, for me, for like the first year, and this is very dramatic. I mean, you could say it was like my worst nightmare, because I got into a place that I was not mentally ready for. And I had a lot major ups and downs. So yeah, it was my worst nightmare because I got what I wanted and I didn't love it. And so that was a mind fuck. But there's also a lot of great things about it. And so in order to get past those first two, let's say 2 years, 2.5 at most, I had to like really, think of things in the way you're saying, like, how am I showing up? Mm-hmm. What's going on in my head? How am I? Because at the end of the day, when you're by yourself, no clients calling you, you can't call on them. You don't have any person to point your finger at. You are alone with your thoughts, and you got to deal with that. And it took me some time, but I'm like, once I started looking inward, how are my actions affecting my business and those around me? But then how are my thoughts perpetuating that? Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's the truest thing. It's the truest thing I've come across. But like, I mean, if you think of it logically, because I know we touched on some stuff, and there's some people who say the same stuff, but they're like, that's woo-woo shit. That's like not real. I'm like, no, like if you have a thought that triggers a feeling, that triggers an action, like that's the simplest way to think about it. The example I give is there was a time when I was waking up at 5 a.m., go to the gym with my cousin. Did that for like 3 months, and then I'd stop, and then I'd start again. Well, when I stopped, it's because I stopped feeling like going. And it's because, and then in my brain, I'm like, I need to sleep in. If I don't hit snooze, I'm going to die. So I'm like, of course, I justified it completely. But if I had that feeling every single morning that I can't wait to get up and go to the gym, I would be the most fit person on the planet. Problem is, I don't have those feelings every day, and the secret is no one does.
No one does.
The Rock,
If we're depending on discipline, we're going to fail.
Yeah.
We have enough discipline to get the habit started.
Yeah.
And then it's the, working with McShin and Caritas that help the disease of addiction. In some ways, us normal people, we all have our addictions, right?
Yeah.
And I heard in the McShin meeting, the normal people have to try to pretend to have their shit together. The breakthroughs don't come until we surrender to our powerlessness to the nature of ourselves and the nature of our addictions.
Yeah.
And so coming back to the practices. So, weeks ago I shared with my coach, what if my business doesn't support me?
Yeah.
Survival mentality, right? Scarcity.
Keep going. I like an idiot. I forgot my charger. We'll
right
cut this part out.
We're going to take this part out. Yeah. So, will my business support me? And, very much a survival mentality. And that ultimately culminates in I'm going to die. And that's all worry. It's all made up. Mark Twain said, I'm an old man. I've known a great number of tragedies, few of which have come true. We literally control our pain, based on how much of a reality we want to wrestle with, right?
Yeah.
And what I love about the Wim Hof thing, it has real life translation. In the cold, what do we have? We have the breath. That. And so pain times resistance equals suffering. So
pain times resistance equals suffering. I'm not the best at math. You take the resistance out, probably lowers your suffering.
Suffering goes to zero. And then you just notice the feeling.
Yeah.
The feeling of, okay, my feet are tight. But, last night I was out with my friend and we love each other and there's nothing to do about it. I've been wrestling with that reality for a long time. Really wanting to be together and be in a relationship. I'm not in a place for that.
Yeah.
And wrestling with that. And when I turn that to zero, it's just, heartache and there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
And then it just turns this beautiful thing.
Uh-huh.
Same thing with a business. Like our business is not us. And if our business isn't performing the way that we want it to, it's not us. Although as a solopreneur, I'm responsible for all the inputs. It has a life of its own.
Yeah.
That was a huge breakthrough. Knowing that I'm not my business.
Even as a solopreneur, because that's
right.
kind of counterintuitive.
It has a life of its own. Right? Where I think it's going to land hasn't been the thing.
Uh-huh.
I thought I was going to be doing this amazing spiritual work, teaching men how to be wizards. Sweet spot with sales teams.
Oh, yeah.
Leading group workshops and working sales teams to really take responsibility for the glass ceilings they create. And then breaking through them together as a tribe.
Yeah.
It's fun, pays the bills, a lot less drama.
Yeah.
But I didn't see Fear Sherpa that way.
But and I can see how it's easy to apply because, like, man, if you've ever been in a situation where you have to pick up a phone and call someone you don't know and try to get an outcome, like, it's frightening. Or if anyone's ever gone like door to door, like, trying to do a fundraiser, trying to sell, little coupon books, maybe as a child, it's like, again, if you could just have that feeling of excitement every single time, your close ratio is going to skyrocket. But what happens is you start telling that story, like, no one wants to hear me. I'm bothering them was a big one for me. Like, oh, I don't want to interfere with their day. And so then I continue to rationalize it by not doing these sales. I'm being a nice person. And that's a story that I had set up for myself. It's like, well, I want to be a nice person. So I'm not going to interrupt their day. And so therefore, how good were my sales? Like, at least cold calling and stuff was not good. But where eventually I got to with business, and I think in a lot of business, you can make it the first couple of years, get there. They become that Buddha where people are just, we know where to find Buddha if we need them. You can be under that tree.
Yeah.
And being so good where people are flocking to you, I think, the same thing certainly happens. But
and certainly knowing what you're offering, right?
Oh, yeah.
You're Donald Miller and your one-liners exceptional.
Yeah.
And so, how do you train a tribe to know that when this particular marketing need comes up, it's Paul.
Right.
And when my sales team isn't performing the way I want it to, Brian.
Yeah.
And I'm reading a great book right now. It's called Peak, and it talks about deliberate practice. This is the 2,000 hours, 4,000 hours, and then a big gap between 10,000 hours where mastery and virtuosity lives.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? There are no outliers to that. Like, hey, you have a lot of talent. Think you might get there in 6,000 hours? Nope. 10,000.
Yeah.
And the thing that I wrote down, the whole story of this is deliberate practice. Cold calling is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Going to ice baths is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And we deliberately practice being uncomfortable because there's moments when running away will literally get us killed. That is the worst option.
Yeah.
And the best option is through the fire, right? And so if we can think about, so you use cold calling as an example, substitute your own resistance, asking for dates, crucial conversations, asking for a raise, changing jobs, changing coasts, whatever your current struggle is. If we can translate that into how can this be my teacher? If it feels uncomfortable, the teacher is there. And if we can turn down the suffering by just accepting it and looking for the lesson, yes, learning is hard.
Mm-hmm.
Admitting I was wrong, admitting my view of the world, the map through which I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Holy shit, it's upside down, right? If we can turn the cold calling into, all right, I'm learning objection handling. I'm learning how to add value immediately to phone calls. And the other part to this is, the coaching world, if I'm making less than $100,000 a year, I'm being selfish. I have a gift that I'm too scared to share. That's me being selfish.
Interesting.
I have a responsibility to put into the hands who need it my coaching services.
Yeah.
And the same with your marketing consulting.
Yeah.
They need it. They don't know they need it. I'm not doing my job if it isn't easy for them to find me.
Which something I was thinking of, like, backing all that up. And this would be, we don't have enough time to hop into this, but the next section of that is what do you actually believe about yourself and about the world?
Yeah.
And I sort of touched on that where I was like, I believe I'm a nice person. And so my thoughts and actions are going to then justify it. But deeper than that, it's no, my belief is that I am good enough. And when you get to that point, your perception of how people may or may not even react doesn't even matter. You don't even feel it. And that's something that I'm kind of been my most recent upgrade. And it's a practice, man. If I'm not doing it and conscious of it, then I'm I get that kind of primal fear of fuck, because I'm not naturally a confrontational person,
mm-hmm.
or I'm not that great of a salesperson, but that negative belief doesn't impact me right now because I know listen, I don't care what you think, because I know that I have what you need. If I'm tired, because if not, then we're not going to be talking. We're not even get to that point in the conversation. And so then by trying to deliver that true value, then I'm communicating at a true place and from a true belief of I believe in myself and I believe in you. We should have this uncomfortable conversation. But if I'm well, I just want to be a nice person. And that's how I thought for quite some time.
That's not how influence happens.
It's not, and it's not fun.
So if I was a doctor, right? And let's say for example, maybe your cholesterol's high or your sugar's through the roof, your A1C is terrible, right? As a doctor who knows better, it's my responsibility to have an uncomfortable conversation. I'm not your friend. I'm not your family.
Yeah.
You choose another doctor, but it's my responsibility to let you know that, and I don't mean to project on you. This is just an example.
Oh, yeah.
Right. If I don't do that, if I don't show and voice concern, I'm not doing my job.
Right.
I have a responsibility to you to speak truth to you because I'm the expert in this.
Yeah. And
all influence happens in that trust overlap.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So for me, and what we're doing with the fearless selling model, right? What's my fear as a sales rep, as a sales consultant coach? I'm scared that I'm going to sell you something that you regret buying from me. And that is the kiss of death. Because you're going to tell everybody, let's say it's medical capital sales for the next 5 years and, $250,000 or more. You regretted buying something from me. You're going to tell everyone who will listen what a shitty sales rep Brian was. Right? Yeah. That's my fear.
Yeah.
And so all these questions are going to be, can I solve your problem? Can I make your life better? Right? And then what's your fear? On the other side of the table, which is really the same side. We're trying to solve the same problem.
Yeah.
Right? You're worried that after I sell you something, what's the relationship going to be like? Is it going to work the way that we said it would?
Right.
And if we can meet in the middle, and if I can handle the word no, I'm not interested, no, I don't care, or no, I don't understand, I can get to that and handle that conversation. And if I know where I am in the sales cycle, right?
Uh-huh.
So if I'm like, hey, is this still a go? Do you already make a decision? Yeah, I already have. Cool. Thank you. You just saved me 10 appointments.
Yeah.
You know?
And a lot of worry and unnecessary stuff that Mark Twain talked about. Most of those things that aren't going to happen.
And then you get the right to ask the concerned questions. Like, help me understand. Did I do a good enough job? Are there questions that you have? How can I be of value now? Right?
Yeah.
And it becomes very valuable. I mean, you know, the velocity of sales funnels, you know, that increases dramatically. The mastery rate goes up in asking those uncomfortable questions and knowing that I'm not your friend, I'm not your family. You know, you can do business with whomever you like.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you, and I expect you to be honest with me. I can handle it.
Yeah.
Don't sugarcoat it for me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you.
Hell no.
Yeah.
You don't need that. And because that's where when you have that trust, and it's all building on it, on what you can provide, because you also have to, what I've been going through and I'm wrestling with, but getting there, it's like, dude, no one bats 100. It's like, I think that every outcome and deliverable is going to be perfect, spotless, the most amazing thing ever. And that's always my goal, but I'm like, I have to grip with that. There's a possibility that things might go wrong and it might be completely out of my control. But,
Sure.
but if I know that I've taken those steps and I've gotten the client on board to where we are on that same team, then we'll do when shit happens. Like we're on the same team, so we're gonna get through it together. Like we're gonna weather that storm. So
Sure.
it's kind of that fear of a possible outcome, even though it's unlikely, because we want certainty. We want that certainty that, hey, Brian, I'm gonna spend $250,000 over the next couple of years for you to train up our staff, and I know there's a possibility that I get no return from it. And that's one of those things that when we're all guilty of it, myself included. Like if I'm getting someone to help me with my business, I want to be like, well, where am I going to see return? And I get the same questions asked of me equally. The problem is that no one can deal with uncertainty, and so we're always guaranteeing it. And that's especially in my space, and I'm sure in sales too. I don't know as much about the sales consulting world. I know a billion marketers. Is that there's marketers out there who just read something in a book and then say, I can promise you I will get you this more customers and this much money. And what sucks is that there's people who are like, yes, thank you for providing me that certainty. But meanwhile, this other person's like, they end up giving them shit results. So it kind of taints the industry. And I think any industry is like
coaching industry is that way too.
Yeah, it's nuts that the people who are the most certain can be the shittiest people. And then it's like, what's that balance of it's because they don't manage expectations. Their expectation is we're going to be back hitting a grand slam here. Someone who's a pro and has been there, they know they can manage like, hey, here's what to expect. When things go wrong, we're going to treat it like this. And you can expect it to be this kind of trial and error until we get to the outcome. Over a long enough period of time with marketing and sales, tremendous overlap. You can say that you bat 100, but you have to have that process in place of whatever you're trying to execute on.
Yes.
And give it enough time to reach that outcome. So, because if I could go into a business,
there's a third thing too.
Oh,
right. So if I'm a doctor, right? Let's say I'm an orthopedic surgeon who specializes in knees, and you have knee pain. I don't have yoga. I don't have ice therapy as a modality. I see your knee, as a nail, and I've got the hammer, right? And so I know this works, right? And I forget the expression. Don't be afraid of what you don't know. Be afraid of the thing you know for certain that isn't.
You said that to me once, and now that's a deep quote because I'm like trying to wrap my head around it.
What do we think we know is true, right? So I'm going through this with my dad, right? So I'm wrestling with my Catholic faith, and the path that worked for him and has helped him tremendously is, surrendering to the Catholic faith and teachings, reconciliation and mass and men's groups and those things. And that doesn't resonate for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he loves me so much that he wants me to adopt his model of the world. And it doesn't work for me at this point, right? And that's his hammer. I'm the nail that's out of whack. And it's like, you have to use this because I love you and because I believe it's worked for me, it'll work for you.
Right? Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying in that. But it could be Buddhism, it could be Taoism, it could be any other modality. Not any other modality, but there's other options, right?
Yeah.
And so the third thing in what we mentioned about, give it enough time is the right fit. I have to understand the problem so well to know that my solution will fit your need. And so in order to bat 1,000, I have to be really, really discerning or discriminating against, yep, you're getting my full attention.
Yeah.
You get time on my schedule and we're going to do this. But until I know for sure, I'm seeking clarity on the sales side. can I definitely improve your life? You don't believe me? Okay. Let's do an interim step. Let's try it out. Let's do a trial session.
Yeah.
You don't believe me? Talk to my former clients. Ask me anything you want. You know what I mean? And the third thing is ask me anything you want.
Yeah.
What are you scared of? What are you scared to ask me? What are your concerns? I'll answer your questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'm seeking clarity in every single sales call or consulting gig, right? Can I definitely provide value? Am I a good fit? Because if I'm not, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time.
Yeah,
the buyer's remorse, right? That's the kiss of death. In today's day, you can't hide today, right? And then on the buyer side, right? So if those are my concerns, I want you to have clarity. Yeah, this feels good. No, Brian's not promising the moon and stars. Like, here's the deliverables. Here's the model. It makes sense to me. I can imagine our team doing this. Here's how we're going to implement it. Here's how it's going to change behavior. I can see that. Let's do it. And at the same token, being open, my market is abundant. There's an infinite number of prospects out there for our businesses, right? And knowing that, hey, if you tell me no and you understand why you're saying no, I welcome it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not all in, I'm going to be all in. And if you're not all in and I feel that, you're not going to get my best.
Yeah.
You're going to be one of those clients that I despise and you're not going to get my best.
Yeah.
And there's a whole network of people that you and I both know that might be a better fit.
Yeah.
It's like dating, right?
Yeah.
If it isn't a good fit, it isn't a good fit.
That's true. Well, and man, we could probably do a major metaphor in this idea. I did a video about how I don't believe in competition. And when you really get down to it, it's exactly what you said. It's like, dude, if you're not 100% on me and I'm not 100% on you, cool. Like, and then they go to, let's say, Bill, the sales consultant, your top competitor. Well, you didn't lose that sale to Bill just because Bill's personality and style and his ability to deliver might be 100% aligned with that client. So you're like, cool. Like, Bill can fundamentally serve that client better than I can. It's a better fit for him, better fit for the client, a better fit for you. It's like the triangle of shit being awesome. I'll have to work on that wording.
This whole ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
So you're a marketing consultant, I'm a sales guy, right? And trainer. And so when you have a great experience with a great sales guy, you don't know that. I was like, man, what a great experience, right? It didn't feel salesy, right? It brings up the value of working with professional salespeople or marketing consultants.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's the cross-pollination of like, hey, Bill, let's collaborate. Let's do a workshop together. Right. So many more opportunities come across when we're not hoarding our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that
it's survival and scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Which is big. And that's something that is like one of the first beliefs and concepts I kind of came across when getting into mindset as it relates to business and personal life. Because, when there's that, it's not business, it's personal, or it's not personal, it's business. Like, well, dude, I take my business very personally.
My business affects my life personally.
Yeah. So like anything I do to improve myself and my thoughts, my outlook on how I just perceive things, like it's going to help in both ways. But yeah, I mean, like thinking of things in scarcity, because if you were like fearful and anxious about what your competition's doing, you are in scarcity. You think there's so few clients because that's really a reflection on your thoughts about your ability to deliver.
It's right? It's the inner fear of being projected in the outer world, and you'll see the scarcity because that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think that might be even fundamentally like you really aren't as good as you think you are. Ooh. Or you're not in the right position. You're afraid of losing a competition because you get so you don't think you're good enough to deserve more or to get more. So you're like, well, I'm not good enough at sales or delivering results. So like the few clients I have, I need to hold on to with dear life, or anytime I get someone pitching to me. And that's where people start negotiating on things like price. Like, oh, well, I pitched you $2,000, but 500, sure. Like, and to your point about if you make less than $100,000, like if you discount your service that much, one, what does it say about you? Like you're willing to discount it, but then two, it's doing both you and the service and that client, because you're going to be resentful once that project starts. Like, I really am going to charge this. Like, I can't make any money off this because I have all these expenses.
And it cheats the client.
Yeah.
Because when it hurts a little bit, you're like, I'm going to get my money's worth. It makes them to be all in.
Oh, yeah. We got to wrap it up because I've got another call, and maybe I can edit the things out.
All right, part one concluded.
This part one. Any parting words?
Be with reality, right? And once we look at reality, to keep your gaze on reality. Where am I at currently? What do I believe? Because those things will prevent us growing in the future. So the breath, the mindfulness, having a great tribe, having people around to remind us who we actually are, instead of being afraid of who we think we are. There's often a big delta between those two things. And if the belief isn't right, there's no way the action can change. We limit ourselves to what we believe, and oftentimes those beliefs are wrong. They don't serve anymore. Get rid of them.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Well, part two will be maybe about beliefs. And when I would watch this, we do some like a handful of mental notes. I'm like, we need to dive into that more and this more.
Yes. I want to talk about feeling, story, and action.
Okay.
How those three things are interrelated. And there's so much play with story work and making more things available.
Hell yeah.
We're just scratching the surface here, kids.
Yeah, dude. Well, first ever live guest in this type of format here in my home. I appreciate you coming and
love being first, man.
It's always a good thing. Number one. All right, we're out. Thanks, y'all.